The stem and the flower. Now, what am I speaking of? I am speaking of woman. And what I'm saying is of great concern not only to woman, but to man. For man must do some recognition in his own experience in what I'm going to say, and woman must also recognize something in what I'm going to say. The stem is the woman that you are. The flower is the female that arises out of the woman. The woman that you are is made by time and experience. The woman carries a considerable load of past, time, and all the experiences that she's had, especially in connection with love or the lack of it. So the woman that you are, that you think you are, is made by time and experience. Whereas the female that's in you, which is your flower, for the woman is your stem, and the flower arises out of the stem, and that is your radiance. And the female in you is made by God. So there's quite a distinction there, you'll see. The woman is in existence, and the female is only in existence in the woman, but she is an essence, a flowering of the woman. And while a woman remains just a woman, she is not her flower. And you can't consciously be your flower, for it is like God. It is spontaneous. And it is like woman, like female is. And I can only describe to you what female is in my experience. And let's see, man, if you recognize it. And let's see, woman, if you recognize it. The female is just simply beautiful. It is what I, as man, truly love, I have seen in woman. I love woman's body and have loved a woman's body, truly loved her. But why did I love woman's body? Passionately and wondrously, discarding myself so that I could be in the beauty that was in her body. I loved her so that I would manifest or see, understand as you hear me talking now, the female. That what I love in woman is the female in her. This extraordinary thing that is not conscious, not aware, and not self-aware as woman is. Woman, by the very nature of having been made by time and experience, is reflective. She reflects on the past, does woman. And she expresses the past in her emotions and her doubts and fears, made by time and made by experience, which she reflects on. But the female doesn't have any experience and is not in time essentially in herself. She is just in time inasmuch as she rises out of the woman's body, or she appears in the woman's body, but she's not subject to time. And she doesn't reflect, because being like God, which is immediate, she is spontaneous. And what is this female? Well, it is the hair on the back of her head. the softness of the hair. And the way when she does her hair, it just comes up or it falls down. Even if she has those little things, that she hangs down here, it is so beautiful to see it. And she has a smile that's just immediate, smile that just says, no care, no wonder, I just love. That's the female smile. And the light in the eyes when she loves. Is there anything more beautiful than the light in the eyes of a woman, which is the female, when she loves, when she woos, when she says, I love you? Not as the woman, but as the female who has no doubts, no fears, because she's the flower of the woman. She comes out of the woman. And what I'm saying is, to woman, first of all, you must, where I come from, for you and for God and for man, as much as possible, be the female that you are. You must be just spontaneous. You must give up your emotion. You must give up your poor opinion of yourself, because that's in the woman, as much as you can. I'm not saying you can give it all up. I'm not saying you need to give it all up for the female to appear. But as much as you can, you address all the negativity, which of course is part of the woman. You know that woman. It's terrible, made by time and experience, which you can reflect on, and terrible. Whereas your flower, this female thing that just to see it, in any woman, when she's standing there or when she's walking past, it's to see it. It's a spiritual, it's a psycho, meaning a pure psyche thing and spiritual thing, a God thing, that we love. And all the women on the front of the glossy magazines endeavour to present the female that they are. The painted lips, the rouged up face, the hairdo and all the rest of it, and looking beautiful with the light behind the eyes, the hair, giving them a sort of halo look, or coming on the face, and all this stuff. They're endeavouring to present to you the female, and we say, oh, isn't she beautiful? But not if we know the female. That's not female. That's an attempt to be female by phony ways, by men and women using phony ways. And you can't fool a man when it comes to a female, but you can fool a sexual man because he can't see the female. All he ever sees before him is the vagina, the sexual man. That doesn't mean that any man can't have a love of the vagina. Why not? You can have a love of the vagina. But the idea of loving the vagina, which is every man's love, whether he knows it or not, is to travel up the vagina into the womb. That's the man should travel up the vagina into the womb. But most men spend their lives in the blooming vagina, playing around all their life in the vagina, pleasing themselves, pleasing the insecurity in the woman, and giving a pleasure, no doubt a pleasure, but not travelling, not doing the salmon trick. The salmon represents all of man and woman's truth, comes out of natural existence. And when I mention the salmon trick is man swimming up the vagina. You know how the salmon swims up this fast running stream and then by some miracle can go up a waterfall which is falling down, which is beyond our comprehension, but apparently is not beyond some sort of dynamic explanation. But at the same time, That's what man does. He's supposed to do in the vagina. He's supposed to love it. He's supposed to really, really love it. And how are you going to travel up the vagina into the womb where the female is? Because that's the womb of life, remember. All life comes out of woman's womb. All the homosexual men, they can't make a baby. No chance. They don't have the womb of life. They only have the means as man of creating life. But woman does. Woman is the womb. So man, why shouldn't you love the vagina? Why shouldn't you worship at it? Because it's God, you see. It's God. It's the channel to God. It's like that when you hear of death experience where, there was a tunnel with a light at the end of the tunnel. There was a tunnel, a black tunnel. And I started to go into it. How many times I've heard this? I started to go into it. And just as I started to go into it, I had a thought about my children or about my mother or father. And I suddenly found myself back into my body because it wasn't time to die, you see. You started to swim or pass through the channel of death towards the light at the end of the tunnel. There's always an extraordinary light at the end of the tunnel. Perhaps it's your perfect body, huh? A brilliant light. But then you have a thought of attachment to the children, to the mother or the father, and zingo, you're back in your body, back in time, back in experience. Wasn't ready to die yet. But talking about loving the vagina, well, it's no good just making love to a woman. You have to really love the vagina. And I tell you, man, it's in you. I tell you, that's what you love. But you've got all sorts of inhibitions and all sorts of, you want to get sexual excitement and you want to do all sorts of things. But how about just loving that vagina, which is what you love? You know, there's nothing there really. It's always the same really, but it's not. Because when you look at it, if there's love in you, there's something happening in the transference between the perceiver, the consciousness, and what is perceived. And there's something extraordinary exchanged. That's if you love it. But if you want to use it and just to satisfy yourself, your sexual excitement, well, then I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about truly, truly loving it. You know, like you love God. Because that's what the vagina is, the beginning of the entry in physical existence into God, which is the womb up here. But it takes time. You can't just love it and just pass up the vagina into the womb of life, which of course is God's womb. The woman's womb is only a symbol of the womb of life. And what's the womb of life? What gives life to everything? God, the great mystery. So you've got to love it. Now, do you love it enough? Or do you just do it? Do you just do it, eh? Well, sorry, you're not worthy of being a salmon. And of course, when the salmon goes up and climbs up and goes up and up, despite all the resistances that the stream seems to hold, when it gets to the top, it dies. After laying its egg, which is its fragrance and whatever it is, it dies. Perhaps that's your lot, man, if you will only love it enough, that you will die in the womb of life, remembering that everything is symbolic. I've told you this before, those of you who have been with me, but I'll tell you again. During my great, great transcendental realization of Supreme Being, which I can describe at any time, and I've never heard anyone else describe it yet, I was walking down Park Lane, which runs beside Hyde Park in London. And I was in the midst of a realization which took 3 weeks. And I was told from within, there was all the traffic going up Park Lane, you know, Park Lane in the Monopoly thing, you know, the most expensive hotel of all, Park Lane. I'm walking up Park Lane, but I'm walking on this Hyde Park side. And the traffic's going up, and there in front of me, I happened to glance at a van, an ordinary van with one of those roller things at the back, roller door at the back, an ordinary van just going up there. And I was told, it's all symbolic, Barry. Meaning the whole of existence, everything that you see is symbolic. And symbolic means symbolizing a reality. But the symbol is not the reality. And so it is with the vagina. But that's the thing that you are attracted to. That's the God-given thing that you are attracted to. That's what you love. That's what you want. And you want to possess it, but you can't possess it because there's nothing really there. It's a test of whether you are true to what you love, man. Do you love it? Or are you going to be dishonest and say, oh, no, I'm not really interested in it. I'm not really interested in it. All right, well, go your way. Go your way. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to a man who loves woman. For what else is there for you to love, man? What else is going to take you? What else is going to take you into the womb of existence? And into the womb of existence or into the womb of life? The vagina leads to the womb, and it is symbolic. And only love gets up the vagina. The love of it, but not the sexing of it. Certainly the sexual passion and drive and whatever it is, that sexual thing that is so beautiful, so glorious, because it's a gift of God, is the sexual thing. But it's there for a purpose. It's not there for self-enjoyment. It's there for enjoyment, but not self-enjoyment, which is your past, your thoughts, your time, the experiences that you've had in the past. It's not there to repeat those so that you have a good fuck. There's no such thing as a good fuck in love. There's just a beautiful making of love, the beautiful contact with woman, the smelling of her, the sweetness of her, as you love her and she emits this extraordinary female fragrance of the flower of her. Now that's something. That's really something, man, and you know it, but have you really realized it? You know what you love. Oh, how you love to get hold of a woman and she just says, love me. What a wonderful, beautiful thing for man. But is he able to cope with that when she says, love me? Or is he going to sex her? Is he going to be honest to what he loves? Mostly he's dishonest to it. He denies it. He has to get down to the sex shop to get a bit of stimulation. He has to get fantasies going about a phantom woman and can't be with the woman that he's making love with, so invents a phantom woman. This is dishonesty. It is not the truth. We're talking about the female. Well, she comes out of being loved. You, man, can make the female, you know. You can make her. But you have to love the woman. You've got to love the stem to get the flower. But as you're loving the stem, as you're loving the woman and loving her, no great mystery. You just don't fantasize. You just enjoy the sheer pleasure of being in her body. And the more that you are doing that without intent to come, without intent to get something, but just the wonder of the making of love with her, which you love, the sensation of it, the pure sensation of being in her body and making love with her. As you do that, of course, you get an emission of the fragrance of her from her body. And so she emits a psycho-spiritual fragrance from her skin. But only a psycho-spiritual man can really smell it. Because it's not of the nose. It's of the being. The recognition of the thing that man loves most in the whole of existence, and yet runs from it, is afraid of it, puts other things first before it, and so wonders why he's so unhappy, why his life is so disjointed and unharmonious, and has to depend on booze and drugs and anything to give him a shot. Either I'm a liar, or the way the world operates, man operates, is a liar. I say that man loves most, what man loves most is woman. It's made that way. It's made that way. Everything is just made that way. But am I making it up? Or is it a home truth, one that really homes in? Are you frightened to really love it, man, without sexing it up and coming? You're really able to love it. Well, when you can love it like that, you're swimming up the vagina. You're swimming up towards the womb of life. And when you get to the womb of life, you'll see the female all the time, and she'll be beside you. One woman just beside you, and yet every woman that you have loved, that you've truly loved, you will see the female in her. She's beautiful. Because it takes a certain vision, a certain spiritual vision to be able to see her wherever she is. That's why I'm talking about it, isn't it? That you might see it in this woman just in front of you, walking past you or sitting there. You might say, well, what a lovely female she is. No intent. You can't have an intent to ravish her, to possess her or anything. You just got to see what you see, like you see the flowers, right? You see the flowers. You see the beauty of them because the beauty is in you. You can't see the beauty of the flowers and really hold to it unless there's the beauty in you that you can hold to, that you've realized. And then you see the beauty outside of you. And so it is with woman. You can't really see the beauty of woman until you have the beauty inside of you sufficiently realized of the wonder of her. Otherwise, you see the beauty of sex. Well, sex has a beauty in it and a good satisfaction and a glorious moment of ejaculation and all the rest of it. But the question is afterwards is the problem. When the tears come and the self-doubt comes and the search for another one comes. All that disjointed way of living because the beauty is not there. Just the enjoyment but not the beauty. Now, when you love a woman, man, when you love her rightly, she changes psychically. She just changes in her psyche. Her psyche changes. She emits something. And if you love her, of course, I mean, what flower, what plant doesn't give off something with nourishment? They say tender, loving care, don't they? And that's true with plants, isn't it? Tender, loving care. Well, something of that equivalent where we are has to be done to bring this female out of woman, this flower. And I am the keeper of the garden. Man is the keeper of the garden. He's got to water the garden. He's got to water the plants, hasn't he? He's got to, like a good gardener, hasn't he? I mean, that's what the Garden of Eden was there. He was supposed to tend the garden, wasn't he? I think he was anyway. It's a good story anyway. He's got to tend the garden. He's got to nourish. He's got to water the flowers. He's got to talk to them, hasn't he? He's got to say how beautiful you are. Oh, and that's what a woman loves to hear, how beautiful she is, because that makes her beautiful if you love her. Doesn't matter how old she is or anything. I was talking to a woman last night who has some doubts about herself, you know, and her man has some doubts about her body and the look of her or something. And I saw, as I talked to her, this beautiful, beautiful female in her face as she talked to me and smiled at me, and her eyes filled with love. Not the love of me, I'm not saying that, but just the love of being recognized. Because I was recognizing her just by being, just talking to her. And she looked so beautiful to me. Did I say that, Sarah, after? Of course, Andrew Cohen calls me a romantic. And I am, aren't I? Oh, I'm a real romantic, all right. Oh, what else is there if you're not a romantic? Oh, good. Andrew's a good man, I'm not saying that, but... well, am I a romantic? Am I on my Charger? Am I on my white Charger? And I got my eye on her, and I'm going to sweep her up behind me. And I don't care what dragons stand in front of me. I'm going to get her because I love her. That's pretty romantic, isn't it? Enough to make you weep. Well, that's my life. But as I say, in my transcendental realization, I realize the Supreme Being which is utterly and completely beyond and outside existence. So I'm not without my knowledge of the Supreme Being which I am in another place. But then I come into existence where man and woman suffer most in their relationships. And I come to inspire them with the love of each other and not putting up with that which is not love, as men and women have done since time immemorial, for the sense of security or for the sense of just comfort and convenience. So have I described this woman enough? I can only describe this woman because of the woman that I'm with, you see, and the women that I've been with. I can only describe a woman from that. You've got to describe things from your own experience. No good using your imagination, is it? Because anyone, you know, all those popular authors can write all sorts of stories from their imagination, but I'm talking about writing, speaking from your own experience of the beauty of woman, of what you've seen in her, of the way to God in existence is love. And what are you going to love, man? What are you going to love in existence that's meaningful? Going to love your mother? Well, that's fair enough, and why not? But you can't love your mother with the same love as you love a woman. You can love your motor car and your house. You can love your children, but you can't love your children with the same love that you have for woman, because your love for woman is made by God. It's irresistible. Irresistible. Thank God. So what are you going to love? The football? The Olympics? Stick to the Olympics every night on the telly? While your woman joins you probably, joins you perhaps to humour you, or perhaps out of the interest that you've created in her for that, when she'd much rather be lying beside you, even not making love, but just lying beside you. Just sensing your male beauty. Now, I can't say much about male. I've spoken about the noble man, as you know, in my books and tapes. And I suppose the male, like the female energy, is made by God. I suppose the male energy is made by God too. I mean, I know it must be like that. But I am male, you see. And I have just seen the beauty of female, and yet I've seen the beauty of the noble man when I've seen him. And I assume that noble man who is only noble in the moment and cannot be noble by intent or trying or wanting, I have seen that nobility as you have. And that has to be the God in man, is that nobility which is immediate, spontaneous, but nothing to do with the trunk, let's say, the trunk which is the man made by time and experience. We're talking about the male, the God-made part that just loves, and that loves woman. We're talking about the female that loves male, loves the male, because a woman truly loves a male man. Saying that the male is the same God thing as the female. She loves to see the male. She loves to see movements or anything that suggests the wonder of male, because they're both two different creatures. And as he adores and loves the sweetness of her immediate female, which has no intent and no acting, just is spontaneous, so she loves to see the male in him. And when she sees it, she will come over to him and put her hands around his neck and just kiss him. And he won't know anything, except he loves her, of course, but he won't know anything about her why she's kissing him or telling him she loves him. It's because she's seen the male in him all the time. And the longer she sees it in him, the more she realizes God, which is her own being. She realizes love. She is love, living love. You see, that's how it works. And he to her too. So I've realized God out of existence, the supreme being. And I've realized God in existence, which is love of woman. And therefore, when I love woman, I love man, as I love you all men. As I give my life to you. Because I love you. Because I see the male and noble man in you when I see it. And the female in the woman. And we can't afford to be emotional, because then we are in time and experience. And we can't afford to be man, we can't afford to be forceful. And we can't afford to take a position, because that's the man and that's the woman. And the man and the woman take positions against each other. Isn't it the eternal battle of the sexes that they talk about? Well, that's man and woman taking a position. But when you are the male and when you are the female, there's no position in that. It just says, I love you. And you might just say, you might be just talking to God or the beauty of nature. I love you. Well, love is the recognition of God, the love of nature. I love you. Or the love of anything, the love of your life, that you're alive, or whatever that means to you. I love you. You see, that's spontaneous. It's got to come spontaneous, because the male spontaneous, the female spontaneous, but the man is not spontaneous and the woman is not spontaneous. They've always got an intent. They've always got a past. They've always got something to think about, the pair of them. They're always prepared to take a position, and usually it's a position against each other, or it's against the world, a position. Whereas the male doesn't need to take a position. The male needs, through the man, then needs to take action. But the man is informed by this extraordinary God-created thing called the male in him. Now you'll see it in all the animals. You know, you'll see it in all the animals, the male and the female. You don't see any self in them. Well, you know, there's a certain determination. Like my cows the other day, our cows. You know, we've got a low brick wall there. And they're very curious. And they love to experience the new, to get into our garden. That's what they want. Where Sarah's got all the silver beet this high, you know, and the beans and the lettuce and everything growing there beautifully in the Garden of Eden. And they love to, they got their eye on that all the time, even though they got 4 acres to wander in, you know. So they stand down there, and a couple of the calves, only this high, somehow or other, you'd be amazed how they can jump. At any rate, they get up into the garden, and of course we spend 3/4 of an hour chasing them, trying to get them down and down into the paddock again, and they don't want to go. They kick their heels up as they get into the new paddock, like we all do when we get into a new paddock. We kick the heels up, don't we, and jump around, and yeah, they're lovely. Anyway, we get them down there. But the point is that this male, of course, the most beautiful thing to see, and couldn't be dangerous because of the testosterone, is the bull. Well, we have a lady that lent us her bull, and you know, she lives nearby, and his name is appropriately called Storm Boy. Isn't that a lovely name for a bull, eh? Storm Boy. And he's beautiful, and you know, and he's got the real male, you know. If you put us on the floor and see a real man, you know, male in the body, he's got this very strong front here and a very little rump, you know, and he's got all up front here. Yeah, and he's all up here, right? And well, they can't put him in too close to other cows, you see. He's all right while he's with a few cows, 3 or 4 cows. He's all right there. He'll behave himself. But if he's on his own and there's some cows over there, he will go through any fence, over anything. He will do incredible gymnastical acts to get there. Well, I think that pretty well describes you and me. Hey, man, hey. Yeah, because we are attracted by the very fact of male and female. We are attracted by the attraction between each other that has to go through the man and woman's body. So the attraction that's between the male and the man is a testosteronic hormone which drives him. And the same in the female. There's the female and there's the woman, and in between the two is a sense of love. Right? But the dominant thing in the man is the testosteronic drive. That's really his love in action, really. His need to procreate like the bull. We got rid of a lot of the procreation. And now, if we're going to go forward, it's his need to love. For we are not just animals, we are animals with the spirit in us. And so the testosteronic drive, which goes just to procreate and in our case to enjoy itself, has to somehow or other be converted into love. And woman, who is so dreadfully unhappy because she is really love and looking for it, love alone, and has been taught to get excited sexually by man, she has to be shown again that the noble man truly loves her and truly loves it and truly loves her vagina and truly loves her breasts, and truly loves her neck, and truly loves her hair, and truly loves her all over, not just one little part of her, so that she can know that she is loved, and that brings the scent of the flower out of her. And the male then, because she says he loves her, because she says she knows he loves her, not do you love me, but I know that you love me. His male fragrance comes out, whatever that fragrance is, and she loves it. And he's a good boy. Now that's not talking down to him, because he is a good boy when he loves. When he doesn't love, he's not a good boy. All right then, so we'll close down on that one just for now. I trust I've communicated it enough. It's not something you can hold on to. It's something that you can look at to see, a woman, are you being your female, or are you being assertive? Are you being emotional? Are you taking a position? Are you being a woman made in time and experience? Or are you giving that up? Are you giving that up and saying, I love life, even if you don't have a man to love? I love life. I love what I have loved. But I don't think about it, I don't remember it. But I never forget what I love, but I don't remember it. And the smile on the face, or inwardly, comes. So we've got to get rid of our positions to really be the God that we are in an animal body. So let us just go into this place of stillness and silence, which is the beauty of the male and the beauty of the female inside each of us. Still, the state of being made by God. For what is natural is the most beautiful, and man's love for woman is the most beautiful thing on earth. If only he will love and bring the female out in her, and at the same time bring the male, the God-made male, out in himself. Now, no thinking, no introspection. Be spontaneous, which is now. And in the now there is no thought, but just the being of being nothing. Now remaining in this place within, which is the place of consciousness, which consciousness is not in this world, consciousness is there. You come into the world of awareness, which is awareness of the senses, awareness of the sense-made world. So there you have two two elements of your intelligence. One is awareness, which is necessary to be aware of the world, and the other is the consciousness of being nothing within you. These are perfect divisions of the psyche made by God. One is the physical world, and the other is the world of the spirit or being, the beginning of God. And the only thing that comes between them and separates them, and therefore makes them seem to be far apart, is yourself, your moods and emotions, your feelings. Whereas these two states should live together. One's a condition, which is the awareness that dies, everybody dies, every sense dies, and the other is the being that never dies. And they are in perfect harmony as long as there is no self between them. Perfect. As perfect divisions of the psyche in the first instance. But the psychic of emotions and things have come between them, which is a pity, but as things are, it makes existence necessary.